From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, I am Estefanía Bravo, and this is From the South. At least 31 people have been arrested and 3 others injured in Argentina in a protest against the government's 2019 budget. Workers of news agency TELAM, public workers, and social leaders were among those arrested. Police have fired rubber bullets and tear gas canisters at protesters. Security forces also used metal barriers to control thousands of people opposing the austerity measures.
It is the budget of the monetary fund. It is not the budget for the people and for the needs of the people. Everyone is suffering because there are layoffs, companies are closing down, because the government is destroying all the national scientific value. They are destroying everything. We will be left with a country with a monumental debt, with no way out.
Meanwhile, fights also broke out inside the lower house as lawmakers discussed the bill. President Mauricio Macri needs this budget to be approved to maintain the agreement with the International Monetary Fund. Our correspondent in Buenos Aires, Edgardo Esteban, has the latest.
The police has violently repressed protesters who were demonstrating peacefully here in front of Congress as lawmakers debate the national budget proposal. This budget aligns with International Monetary Fund, which means more adjustments could come into effect, affecting the most vulnerable people. 31 people have been arrested, 3 people injured, and authorities have not justified yet the reasons of this repression. Congress is surrounded by fences protected by police lines. It is estimated that the budget law will be voted at 7 in the morning. After the voting, the law will have to pass to the Senate for final approval. The government of Mauricio Macri wants to approve the law before Friday, when the $57 million loan from the International Monetary Fund will be announced to justify this adjustment policy. This large demonstration was repressed with tear gas. Our colleague and cameraman was also injured with a rubber bullet. Police threw things like this to protesters as the march continued in this avenue.
We thank Edgardo Esteban for that report. Demonstrators in Chile were also repressed as they demanded the government to eliminate the system that manages workers' pensions. Our correspondent in Capital Santiago, Tiari Valenzuela, has the details.
People are protesting in Chile against the system that manages the workers' pensions. The current system was set up by the dictatorship and until today uses the pension fund to invest in international markets. But as people protested, police detained the leader and spokesperson of the social movement opposing the system, Luis Messina. Sources say Messina was taken in a police car and is now in a clinic being treated for several injuries he suffered as he was being arrested. Several demonstrations have been reported around the country as President Sebastián Piñera hopes to pass a system of reforms that will capitalize on workers. The reforms are aimed to increase taxes in 40% to workers, funds that they will allocate to the system that manages workers' pensions. Social movements are hoping to meet with the president to propose a system in which workers, companies and state collaborate so that workers can access a fair pension. In Chile, more than 60% of pensions don't reach the minimum wage, and most of the retirees have to work in order to survive. We will keep you informed.
We thank Tiare for that report. Moving on, Cuban Foreign Affairs Minister Bruno Rodriguez has announced that the U.S. is planning a new political strategy to block the island. In a press conference, Rodriguez said the U.S. permanent mission in the UN has launched a series of amendments to the resolutions that condemn economic sanctions. Rodriguez said this is just a way for the U.S. to pressure countries to change their votes in the UN to end the blockade. The vote is expected for October 31st.
The repeated statements of the United States against Cuba have a goal, and that is to increase tensions between the two countries. The United States wants to defend, with the help of any tools, generally illegal and immoral ones, its behavior over the sanctions against Cuba.
Peru's prosecutor José Domingo Pérez has accused the Popular Force Party leader Keiko Fujimori of money laundering. Pérez said Keiko created a corruption network to receive illegal funds for her party from Brazilian construction giant Odebrecht, among others. The prosecutor had asked the judiciary to detain the opposition leader for 36 months in temporary custody. The migrant caravan heading to the U.S. border has resumed its march in Mexico. Migrants left the town of Huixtla at dawn on Wednesday and will be walking for 12 hours to reach their next stop in the town of Mapastepec. Many report being injured, their feet bleeding due to walking nearly 800 kilometers for 10 days straight in plastic shoes or flip-flops. The migrants are determined to reach the U.S. despite the threats of President Donald Trump. The Trump administration has made a number of accusations about the caravan. They have suggested there may be terrorists from the Middle East among the migrants, that it was organized by the left wing, and that it might have been financed by the governments of Venezuela and the U.S. Democrats.
You had said that there were Middle Easterners in the caravan. Can you explain that? Are you saying there are terrorists?
Well, there could very well be, yeah. There could very well be. And if you look at...
you know for sure?
I have very good information. And if you look at what's happened with Honduras and statements made about Honduras, and even a phone call that our vice president had today, which I think you can maybe reveal. Do you want to mention that, Mike? Is that okay? Probably.
Certainly.
Go ahead, please.
No, at the President's direction, I spoke to President Hernandez of Honduras. He told me that the caravan that's now making its way through Mexico, headed for the southern border, was organized by leftist organizations and financed by Venezuela. We, as we've said...
And the Democrats, maybe? And the Democrats?
Well,
Let me give you this pen. Let me give you the pen.
And as people struggle to cross from Guatemala into Mexico, the flow of migrants is not stopping. After seeing how far the first caravan has advanced, hundreds more have started their own journey from Honduras.
This is the second caravan of Honduran migrants that has entered Guatemala in the past week. Their goal is to catch up and join the first caravan. They said they have decided to start their way to the U.S. despite attempts by Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernández to close the border.
The other caravan is waiting for us to join them. We are waiting in Zacapa for yet another group that's behind us. There are around 12,000 people. We are only 5,000 people, so we are going to try to get everyone together.
On the road from the department of Chiquimula to Guatemala City, migrants are asking drivers to take them. Even police are taking them in their vehicles. Many of them are exhausted from the long road. How long have you been traveling?
We have already walked for 7 days. We are very tired, but we are being joined by God. He is helping us.
In this second caravan, more families have fled Honduras together. Children and newborn babies travel along with their parents. They say they are not afraid of what can happen at the border of the United States, but no matter what, they will not return to their country.
The president will stay alone with his country. We do not want to go back there.
Have you left your family and friends?
Yes, but we have to keep going forward.
People in the caravan say there are even more people coming behind them, despite the announcement by the president of a plan to return them home safely. A plan no one seems to be interested in.
We'll be back very soon. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's no secret that far-right presidential candidate Jair Bolsonaro holds resentment towards social movements, which he accused of stealing Brazil's resources. Many see him as a threat to democracy because of his sexist, homophobic, racist, and authoritarian comments. We bring you more in our special series, Bolsonaro or Haddad, two opposite projects for Brazil.
The destinies of close to 150 million Brazilians truly rests within their own hands. Liberal Social Party candidate Jair Bolsonaro strongly backs the use of anti-terror laws against social movements. He has also made it clear that he will not condone any form of social activism. On the other hand, Workers' Party candidate Fernando Haddad promises to introduce new agrarian and urban reforms. He also guarantees equal representation of all people. Bolsonaro's supporters agree with his proposed suppression of social movements.
There has to be better regulations, because we can't continue like this. Invasions carried out by these groups are wrong. Anyone who chooses to invade another person's private property is wrong. That is simple evil.
In a video message, Bolsonaro said he would wipe off the map persons he described as red criminals. He was referring to social and labor organizations. Political analysts warn that the relationship between Bolsonaro and the business elite could have a serious impact on workers' rights.
Businessmen are financing fake news. They are essentially enabling the dismantling of labor rights, and that is why they consider Bolsonaro a strong ally. He is a candidate without limits. He will persecute his opponents. He will silence human rights activists. He will persecute any worker who will try to defend his rights.
She was a political prisoner during the Brazilian civil-military dictatorship. Now Solange José walks the streets of Rio de Janeiro, rallying support for Fernando Haddad, and to let people know the threat that Bolsonaro represents.
The Brazilian people do not know how severe a dictatorship is. I experienced it firsthand. I know what is it, and that's why I am out here. I have been part of the teachers' union for 20 years. I had to quit my job because I needed brain surgery. This was because of the injuries I sustained from being repeatedly struck in the head during the military dictatorship.
Voters have seen and heard the hateful messages Bolsonaro has sent his opponents. In addition to his son's threat to close the Supreme Court, now the destinies of millions of Brazilians truly rests within their own hands.
Workers' Party candidate Fernando Haddad was greeted by a massive demonstration in Rio de Janeiro on Tuesday night. Haddad continues to call for a debate with his opponent Jair Bolsonaro before Sunday's runoff election. He said that the debate can take place anywhere and in any format, saying democracy will suffer if voters are unable to compare the two candidates' ideas. Haddad has slightly narrowed the gap between himself and Bolsonaro in the most recent Ivope opinion poll published on Tuesday. A number of renowned Brazilian artists, including singers Chico Buarque and Caetano Veloso, also came up to support Haddad at the rally. Buarque and Veloso encouraged the crowd to vote for Haddad. There were women in the crowd wearing t-shirts with the message "Struggle like a girl," attacking the far-right candidate Jair Bolsonaro's views on women.
I believe that Bolsonaro's side doesn't represent me at all. So I don't even think about why I might vote for him. The only solution for democracy is with Haddad.
Moving on, Ecuador's Foreign Minister José Valencia has said his country has no plans to intervene with the British government on behalf of Julian Assange. Valencia said Ecuador has agreed to protect Assange inside Ecuador's embassy, but clarified that the country holds no further responsibility. The WikiLeaks founder recently sued the government of Ecuador over new conditions imposed on him to remain under asylum. He now fears he could be arrested and extradited to the U.S. if he is forced to leave the embassy.
Ecuador's agreement is to protect Mr. Assange's integrity inside Ecuador's diplomatic mission. That's what Ecuador has to do. Ecuador has no responsibility to take any further steps. Of course, at some point, if we can facilitate a conversation between Mr. Assange and the British side, we'll do it. But nothing more than that. We're not Mr. Assange lawyers, nor are we representatives of the British government. It is a direct relationship that exists between Assange and Great Britain.
Still in Ecuador, its defense minister is hailing the success of the U.S. Navy's hospital ship that recently arrived in Esmeraldas. Some patients complained that they were not able to access the medical care they so desperately needed.
This is Carmen. She's one of many residents desperately in need of medical assistance. Carmen suffers with painful varicose veins in her legs and was told she urgently requires surgery. Sadly, her medical insurance does not cover this type of treatment at public hospitals. So when she heard about the ship's arrival, she wasted little time in seeking help. However, she was met with disappointment.
This is a joke. We have been here since 7 o'clock yesterday and we have been told that there is only dental medicine. It is not right that they have deceived us like this, in this town where some of us are literally at death's door.
Several citizens told a similar story. Some were upset about having to endure an hour-long wait for medical attention, with the scorching heat of the sun bearing down on them. They say they feel as though they were being insulted by the Defense Ministry at the United States Embassy.
They lied to us. After 2 weeks of $1 million promotions promising that this hospital ship was going to be the long-awaited help we need. However, it has failed to deliver. Only the relatives of the authorities and persons close to them seem to be getting attention.
They said they were bringing specialists from the United States. We believed that they would have been able to provide us with good medication. However, look how they have treated us. This is a mockery.
The visit of the U.S. comfort ship is part of an international cooperation agreement between the United States and Ecuador. The vessel's medical team says it is expected to attend to over 700 patients a day and carry out about 20 surgeries on board. Ecuador's defense minister attempted to address the people's concern.
The international cooperation with the United States is of great importance. We assured that the medical team would see patients over the next few days, all those that need urgent medical attention, so Colm can return to Esmeraldas.
Despite the government's claims of success, some citizens say Esmeralda continues to be one of the most neglected provinces in the country. Denise Herrera, Telesur, Ecuador.
The public prosecutor in El Salvador has issued an arrest warrant for Captain Álvaro Saravia. He is accused of murdering Archbishop Oscar Romero, who was canonized by Pope Francis earlier this month.
We have just been informed of the court's resolution on the murder case of Archbishop Romero. We haven't received the complete ruling yet, but we have been told to send out an arrest warrant for Mr. Álvaro Saravia and to investigate war crimes committed during the military dictatorship.
Salvadoran President Salvador Sánchez Serén is visiting Cuba to strengthen commercial ties, solidarity programs, and medical cooperation. Sánchez Serén said that the two nations play a key role in the region. He added that Cuban teachers are very important for Salvadoran people, as more than 300,000 people have benefited from programs of cooperation. Sánchez also defended Salvadorian migration to the United States.
El Salvador y Cuba hemos tratado de actuar.
El Salvador and Cuba have tried to act closely in all political scenarios, working towards making Latin America a united region and reinforcing economical ties. For us, immigrating is a human right, and so migrants' rights have to be respected. We're totally against Donald Trump's policy and vision of migration. Salvadorian migrants help the United States economy.
Hurricane Wilma has been downgraded to a tropical depression after making landfall as a Category 3 hurricane in western Mexico. The powerful storm, which was a maximum Category 5 hurricane on Monday, had weakened to a Category 3 as it moved toward land. According to the U.S. National Hurricane Center, the storm will dissipate by Wednesday afternoon. Meanwhile, residents on Mexico's Pacific coast have begun returning to their homes and clearing up the wreckage. The hurricane had ripped through towns overnight, tearing off rooftops, bringing down power lines, and splitting trees apart. We'll be back very soon. Stay with us. Welcome back. At least 19 people have been killed in Yemen in airstrikes launched by the Saudi Arabia-led coalition. The airstrike was shot against the vegetables market in the province of Al Hudaydah. Another 6 people have been injured in the attack. Federal authorities are investigating suspected explosive devices 10 to former U.S. President Barack Obama and former Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. This comes 2 weeks ahead of the elections on November the 6th that will determine whether the Republican Party maintains control of Congress. The devices were intercepted during routine mail screenings. The Secret Service confirmed that there is no immediate danger to the individuals concerned. And the Time Warner building in New York had to be evacuated after a similar device was found in the CNN mailbox. The bomb squad confirmed that they had the situation under control.
Exactly what is going on the other side.
Our correspondent in New York, Karina Cartagena, has the details.
I am outside the Time Warner Center that was evacuated by the authorities because of a suspicious package that was sent to CNN. It was addressed to John Brennan, a former director of the CIA, who has been very critical of Donald Trump. The discovery coincides with suspicious packages reported to be improvised explosive devices sent to former President Barack Obama and former presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. In a press conference, New York Mayor and the governor have called on people to remain calm. These events come ahead of the midterm elections next month. Police have cordoned off the area while investigations continue.
We thank Karina Cartagena for that report. Renewed ethnic clashes in Somalia's autonomous region of Somaliland have left more than 50 people dead. A local official said 120 others were injured in fighting between the different clans. Somalia's President Mohamed Farmajo has described the fighting as unfortunate and called for a ceasefire. And now let's take a look at some other stories making headlines around the world.
Journalist Junpei Yasuda is happy to be heading back to Japan after being held by armed rebels in Syria for 14 months, although he did tell Reuters that he's unsure about what to do next. He entered Syria through Turkey in 2015.
I'm happy to be able to go back to Japan. I haven't spoken Japanese for 14 months. I can't really find the words. I'm happy that I can return to Japan. At the same time, I don't know what will happen from here or what I should do. I'm thinking about what I need to do.
The Middle East is set to become the new Europe, according to Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Speaking at the investment conference in Riyadh, he said that his country will be completely different in the next 5 years. The conference is taking place amid controversy over the slain journalist Jamal Khashoggi, who was reportedly dismembered inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. Protesters in Ukraine have gathered outside presidential buildings in Kiev to demand the resignation of the current government and the cancellation of gas price hikes. It was organised by former Prime Minister Yulia Tymoshenko. Ukraine's government decided to raise household gas prices by 23.5%, an outstanding requirement of the International Monetary Fund.
And with that, we've come to the end of this news brief. These and other stories, as always, find them on our website at telesurtv.net/English. And also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telesur English, I am Stefania Bravo. Thank you for watching.